assistant inspectors general, commissioners, and other senior police officers is unnecessary. It disclosed that there is an institutional succession plan in Nigeria police force, especially with the current injection of 10,000 constables and several other thousands of cadet assistant superintendents of police from the police academy every year. Gunmen have kidnapped a woman identified as Olayinka Tosin Kayode and her child around Otaifun Kobongbogwe area of Osogbo, the Osun State capital. A statement by the Union Baptist Church, Odiolowo Osogbo, said the victims, who are members of the church, were abducted yesterday evening while returning home from shop. The statement disclosed that the woman's husband, Kayode Abayomi, has since been reached by the kidnappers, who are requesting that 5 million naira ransom be transferred to them through the account of his wife in their custody. Osun State Police Public Relations Officer SP Yemisi Okpalola confirmed the incident to Western Spring Television News. She added that efforts are ongoing to secure the freedom of the victims. In Kaduna State, troops of Operation Forest Sanity of the Nigerian Army have rescued 16 people who were kidnapped by bandits during operations in Benin, Gwari, and Igabi local government areas of the state. The Commissioner of Police for the State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, disclosed this in a statement yesterday, stating that the troops responded to a distress call along the Udawa-Manini axis of the Benin-Gwari-Kaduna road. It disclosed that the troops foiled the attack and rescued 16 persons in the process, adding that some of the rescued persons who sustained injuries were rushed to hospital for treatment. Mr. Aruwan further noted that troops of Operation Forest Sanity also responded to another distress call from Gonan Doctor Village in Igabi local government area and laid ambush on bandits' crossing point in Maraban Huda village. Many Nigerians have continued to feel the adverse effects of a recurring fuel scarcity alongside high prices, with long queues increasingly becoming a daily occurrence. Many motorists are faced with the challenges of having to queue for long hours, losing quality time. Olayinka Ale was on the streets of Osogbo, the Osun State capital, and felt in this report.
More than 3 months after scarcity of premium motor spirit, otherwise known as petrol, emerged in many parts of the country, attributable to alleged increase in ex-depot price, debt, and logistic challenges, the situation appears to be getting worse, with many Nigerians buying the product at the black market or waiting endlessly in prolonged queues for the product at the regulated price. With the commodity selling as high as 270 naira at a pump in many retail stations owned by independent marketers, consumers have questioned the rationale and loud silence of the sole importer, the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, and the regulator, Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA. Motorists who cannot stand the long hours spent on the queues have had to resort to the black market, with an impact on transportation cost. While there have been promises as regards the situation, Nigerians will need to power their homes and businesses using generators, as well as many motorists have yet to see an improvement in the supply of the products across the country. Cross-section of transport workers like Miriam Mohamed, Tijani Afiz, and Mustafa Musbao, in their separate interviews, all lamented on this lingering fuel scarcity and pleaded with the federal government to find a lasting solution.
We used to come, even I left home to 6 because I stay at Owode, so I left home to 6. I get there exactly maybe 10 minutes after 7. So we have been staying. We have been waiting.
Fuel is scarce, so most of them said this fuel is 300 naira per liter, is 180. Please, I beg all the government, help me. So help all the some people that suffer.
The only thing that I can say that the government should help us for the fuel to be in this airport, for the price of the fuel to come down, and again they supply us with fuel. That's the only thing I can have for the government.
Already, the impact has been felt in the rising cost of transportation, services, and dwindling household incomes. Commuters have witnessed at least 200% hike in the cost of transportation. Similarly, the traffic created as a result of the fuel queues continues to impact productivity, as many people now spend more hours on the road. Despite scarcity, the federal government has set aside 3.36 trillion naira for fuel subsidy from January to June in the 2023 budget, having spent well over 4 trillion naira on subsidizing the products last year. However, the chairman, Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, Oyo and Osun State Chapter, Alhaji Bukola Mutiu, has appealed to the residents of Osun State that the fuel scarcity being experienced was not emanated from IPMAN. He thereafter advised citizens to keep appealing to the federal government so as to get a soothing experience.
Well, it's because of lack of supply from NNPC. And the law of supply is simply is that when the demand is higher than the supply, we have that kind of situation we find ourselves. We cannot continue this way, because the reason why we could not continue this way is that increase in pump price, it will affect all commodities, which I'm paying through my nose. You are paying through your nose because of the increase in prices of petroleum products. So government should come to our aid to do the needful. They should give us direct access to buy from NNPC. All these prices will crash down and you buy it at a normal official rate. I want to appeal to the masses that the situation on ground is not emanated from IPMAN, that is the station's owner. It's the situation that is beyond us that we find ourselves. And as important as we are in the economy of this country, we cannot just say we want to close down our station. We should help us to appeal to the government to do the needful.
Meanwhile, on January 17, 2023, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos, stated that the federal government at some point had to borrow funds to buy petrol. Olayinka Ali, Western Spring Television News.
Elsewhere, 27 state houses of assembly have forwarded their resolutions on 35 constitution amendment bills to the National Assembly. The Senate consequently directed the clerk of the National Assembly to transmit the 35 constitution amendment bills that have so far met the requirement of the provision of Section 9, Subsection 2 of the Constitution to President Muhammadu Buhari for assent. The upper chamber also asked the remaining 9 state houses of assembly that are yet to forward their resolutions on the constitution amendment bills to do so soon. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around here. Yup, we've got you covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be showing on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Prime.
Welcome back. Moving on, President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday inaugurated the John Randall Center for Yoruba Culture and History in Lagos State. The project is described as part of the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's development project in the state. Earlier, the president had commissioned the Blue Rail Line from Marina to Mile 2, accompanied by Sanwo-Olu and Deputy Governor Bafemi Hamzat. He also witnessed the signing of the commencement of Phase 2 of the project from Mile 2 to Okokomaiko.
The Yoruba folks, under the tree, when you have stories, these are all traditional. The old gramophone.
Once upon a time, in the kingdom of animals and birds, there was great famine and hunger. The animals called an important meeting to talk about the hunger in the land. Let us cook our children for food. And an animal cried out, "Oh, do you think that's a good idea?" Another replied, "But we can't keep on dying from hunger. We must do something." After much deliberation.
In business, the Policy Setting Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has raised the monetary policy rate, which measures interest rate, from 16.5% to 17.5% to rein in inflation. In December, Nigeria's inflation rate fell slightly from 21.47% to 21.34%. Governor of the Apex Bank, Godwin Emefiele, announced the development to journalists yesterday after the committee's meeting at the CBN headquarters in Abuja. Mr. Emefiele said the MPC was of the view that although inflation rate moderated marginally in December, the economy remains confronted with the risk of high inflation with adverse consequences on the general standard of living. Speaking on the January 31st deadline for the phasing out of old Naira notes, the CBN governor insisted that the date remains sacrosanct. He also said the time given for the deposit of the old Naira notes was enough for Nigerians to go to commercial banks and get new notes. Meanwhile, the Senate and House of Representatives have asked the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to extend the deadline for the withdrawal of old Naira notes from circulation.
He says reports suggest that many people want the deadline to be shifted for reasons ranging from their inability to gain access to the new notes or deposit their old currencies. I must say here that unfortunately I don't have good news for those who feel that we should shift the deadline. My apologies. The reason is because, just like the president had said on more than 2 occasions, and even to people privately, that for us 90 days, in fact, we feel is 100 days is enough for anybody who has money or the old currency to deposit the money in the banks. And we took every measure to ensure that all the banks were open or remain still open to receive all old currencies. 100 days, we believe, is more than adequate.
Still in business, tens of thousands of users around the world have reported being unable to access Microsoft services, including Teams and Outlook. Other services, including Teams and Xbox Live, were also reported by users as not working. According to Down Detector, which tracks website outages, issues have been reported in many other countries around the world, with thousands of reports in India and Japan alone. Microsoft says it is investigating the outage. Earlier, Microsoft sales slowed sharply as customers facing economic strains cut their spending on technology. The firm said sales rose just 2% in the 3 months to December to $52.7 billion, the smallest quarterly increase in more than 6 years. The update came just days after the firm said it would reduce its workforce by roughly 5%, eliminating 10,000 jobs. The news outside Nigeria, Chris Hipkins has been sworn in as New Zealand's 41st Prime Minister. The 44-year-old was formally appointed to the role in Wellington a week after Jacinda Ardern's shock resignation. Ms. Ardern had said she has no longer enough in the tank to lead the country, and the country's Governor-General, Cindy Okiro, accepted a formal resignation today. Mr. Hipkins built a reputation as a minister who led New Zealand's COVID-19 strategy. At the ruling Labour Party's caucus over the weekend, Mr. Hipkins received unanimous support to be promoted to lead the country and now faces the uphill task of retaining power in the upcoming general elections in October.
In that case, I will proceed with your appointment as Prime Minister.
Your Excellency, the letters patent constituting the Office of Governor-General of New Zealand authorise and empower you to appoint Ministers of the Crown. I submit for your signature a warrant appointing the Honourable Chris Hipkins as Prime Minister.
That gives effect to your appointment as Prime Minister. Congratulations, Prime Minister Hipkins.
In Africa, Tanzania's former presidential candidate Tundu Lissu is expected to return to his home country today from exile in Belgium. The opposition leader returned home after the government recently lifted a ban on political rallies, and he is expected to address supporters later in the afternoon. The ban imposed by former President John Magufuli in 2016 allowed only elected politicians to conduct rallies in their constituencies. Mr. Lissu was shot 16 times in an assassination attempt in 2017 in the country's capital, Dodoma, and has spent most of the year since in Belgium. He then returned for a few months in 2020 to challenge Mr. Magufuli in a presidential election where he only secured 13% of the votes. His Chadema party rejected the outcome over claims of widespread irregularities. After months of reluctance, the German government has confirmed the decision to send 14 Leopard tanks to Ukraine. The decision was announced by Chancellor Scholz at a cabinet meeting this morning. Germany will also approve the export of Leopards by third countries. The United States also reportedly plans to send tanks to Ukraine in what Kyiv hopes will be a game changer on the battlefield. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration is expected to announce plans to send at least 30 M1 Abrams tanks. Russia's ambassador to the U.S. said the news was another blatant provocation, and the Kremlin spokesman said Germany's decision would bring nothing good and leave a lasting mark on relations with Russia. Ukrainian officials say they are urgently in need of heavier weapons and say sufficient battle tanks could help Kyiv's forces seize back territory from the Russians. To some sports stories now. Some 8 Arsenal fans who were arrested in the Ugandan city of Jinja after celebrating the club's win against Manchester United in the English Premier League have been released. They were wearing the club's red jersey and carrying a symbolic trophy during their arrest on Monday. Police said they did not have a permit to hold the procession, which is a public order offence. But the regional police spokesman, James Mubi, said a joint security team agreed to free them yesterday with a caution. One of the fans told journalists that they would seek for permission to celebrate if Arsenal wins the Premier League. The police spokesman claimed the fans did not know the basics about the club and that they did not know which year Arsenal had their unbeaten run and had named a former Ugandan goalkeeper as an Arsenal player.
Personally, I'm an Arsenal fan, you know that, you see. But now these are people whom, after bringing them at police, they even have no basics about Arsenal. Because when we asked about the unbeaten run, they said it is of 2007. One of the players, Dennis Onyango, you see, uncoordinated. So they were saying, no, for us, they just called us, gave us the jersey that let's go on the street. Meaning we have to find out the motive.
To tennis, Magda Linette will meet 5th seed Arina Sabalenka in the Australian Open semi-finals after she beat Karolina Pliskova to continue her dream run. The Polish world number 45 had previously never gone beyond the third round of a Grand Slam in 29 attempts, but she produced a fearless display in a 6-3, 7-5 win over Czech two-time major finalist Pliskova on Rod Laver Arena. Two-time Australian Open winner Victoria Azarenka plays Wimbledon champion Alina Rybakina in the other semi-final tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I will never forget this. It's, the first time ever I'm breaking through some really difficult things for me. So, this will stay with me for life. So I'm really grateful. I'm super happy for the support. So again, thank you so much, everybody.
Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. The presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, has promised to make Nigeria better for the younger generation. Gunmen have kidnapped a woman identified as Olayinka Tosin Kayode and her child around Otaifun Kobongbogwe area of Osogbo, the Osun State capital. And on the foreign scene, Chris Hipkins has been sworn in as New Zealand's 41st Prime Minister. Remember to follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends Spring News at 12. I am Evelyn Ohiole. Thank you so much for your time.